Welcome back to Beeranid40k. Kind of returning to something I used to do a little bit of. You guys have told me recently that you liked these kind of videos. So I'm in the car driving around. Thought I would just chat with you for a second. So I've had a couple interesting losses against Tau lately, back to back with my training partner that I have. We train for events and competitions and stuff. We have a bunch of different factions each. And as a lot of you might already know, I started a Deathwatch kill team lately. Still kind of being built up, still kind of being tested out, getting it on the table and seeing, hey, so is it true? You know, these myths that you hear, is frag cannon spam the answer? Things like that. You really need to test these kind of things out. And Tau are just such a rough faction. So today I thought I'd kind of talk a little bit about what makes Tau so good. First, are Tau broken? Well, it's really interesting because my friend that plays them last night, I told him, I said, you know, Tau are definitely top tier, in my opinion. And he said Tau are, in his opinion, about 1.5. So the thing about Tau is they have an answer for a lot of things. You know, they're not that great for close combat, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to get close in, or that they don't have some kind of a reply for when you're close. If they survive, they just back out, and unless you have something else to countercharge or something like that, they fall back, they shoot at you, and that's it. Now, the thing is that they're able to find, like I said, kind of an answer to everything. So Marine equivalents, they have the rail rifles. For things that are close combat, a lot of times they can actually hunt you. You'll find that as you're running up with gene stealers, stuff like that, they'll just kind of wait for you to get initiative, and all of a sudden they become the hunters. You get initiative, you make your move, and if they have a list with a lot of fly in it, so stealth suits and drones, you'll be in cover and they just kind of pop around that. It's an illusion. Right when you think you're safe, when they don't have any line of sight, anything like that, they just kind of shift the board and just pop in and materialize right next to your guys, and it's really kind of tough. Now the drones, the thing about the drones is they're deceptive, in my opinion. Drones are, I think, key to Tau victory, whether it's you're playing with them or against them. Now the Tau drones, they all have fly. They can take 2 weapons on them, right? I'm talking about just the standard gun drones, usually, when I'm talking about drones. Because, like, imagine, since they have those 2 guns, they roll 2 separate attacks on you. So they'll roll the first weapon, boom, boom. Did they hit you? Did they wound you? Did they flesh wound you? Well, then they get to do it again. And so they have a little bit of a decent offensive capability. But there's other shenanigans that they have, which is Saviour Protocols. Saviour Protocols, basically, like in a mission like Terror Tactics, okay? You shoot a rail rifle, Pathfinder. You get your guys lined up, you make the shot, you take them out, right? No, again, the Tau theme is illusion. You don't take out the rail rifle. If there's a drone within range, the player can pass that wound on to them. And then you have to roll an injury roll for a drone. And in a mission like Terror Tactics, they have now allocated that wound. And so the prevailing thought in competitive play is that since it wasn't technically one of your model's attacks that took that model out of action, not only do they roll the injury roll, but you don't score the point for taking that model out in that mission. And so when you sit down, you have these drones, right, around these big targets that you know you need to take out. But it's like a mirage. You sit there and you put your firepower onto the targets that you actually see as a high priority, which are not usually the drones, and then the drones soak that up anyway. The thing gets to survive and shoot you that you wanted not to be alive to shoot you, and then sometimes it can even be denying you a victory point. So, one of the secrets that I think, when I think of Tau anymore, is if they're spamming drones, if they have, like, say, 5 drones on the table, you need to try to take those out. And it's so hard to do that. There's like this mental block within me that just has the hardest time getting around this, because those aren't what you really want to be killing right then. Yet you have to kill those to make sure that you can actually kill what you want. So if you're trying to outrange Tau, that's going to be a very difficult thing. So I'm thinking in my next approach is I'm going to have to play Death Watch like Tyranids. I'm going to have to go close combat and try to use some of the things that I've used in the past for success in close combat melee factions. So take forward positions, stack that with the veteran movement. Then you get your first turn. So take forward positions, that's in the scouting phase, that's a normal move for 20% of your models. So you take a veteran specialist, you move him 6 inches. Or, you know, if you're, depending on what you're playing. On a Marine, that's 6 inches. On a Gene Stealer, a normal move would be 8 inches. It's your base movement profile. Move that up there. Then, before the first initiative phase, you stack Adaptive Tactics, which is the veteran move, onto the veteran who just moved. You can let him move again. So this is an advanced move up to, it's up to 12 inches because it would be 6 plus D6 is that movement now that they would get before the game starts. And then you got to pray that you can use perhaps decisive move, 1 more CP, something like that, because Marines don't have like metabolic overdrive or anything like that that lets them get crazy with their movement. And especially in that first turn, even with something like Tyranids that do have that, you're usually not pulling off metabolic overdrive anyway if you've already done the veteran move. Metabolic overdrive is a 2-point move, or a 2 command point tactic, I should say. Whereas you've already spent 1 command point on the Adaptive Tactics veteran move. Because simply put, you can't just sit there and go toe-to-toe. Even though I'm playing a shooting faction this time around, and finally experimenting with this a little bit more in Kill Team, it's hard to outshoot the best. I could go and start boxing tomorrow and be a really good boxer, but if I go against like Mike Tyson in his prime, if somebody built a time machine and had me stand toe-to-toe with him, it's not going to work. So I need to find a way to not stand toe-to-toe with the enemy where they're at their best. I need to find them where they're weak and hit them there. And it's very, very interesting. So with Tau, those drones, I think, are, if you are going to be shooting as you're moving in, you need to be taking out drones. And it's so hard because those rail rifles, are going to kill your guys. The stealth suits, are going to be running circles around you. Stealth suits are almost like chasing your own, like a dog chasing their tail. Stealth suits, they'll put themselves down and say, here I am. Well, they have fly and an 8-inch base move. So they can advance, they can fall back and then still shoot because of the fact that they have that fly keyword. So you can't get locked into chasing stealth suits. You have to see, okay, this is what's on the ground. This is what they brought. They're going to be saving wounds from these drones. So you got to take those drones out as you're moving up. Kind of lock in, hopefully take those out as you're moving into combat. Turn 2, something like that. Try to take out the ones near your target range that you're going to be trying to get into melee combat with, and then get in there. And so that's my next game plan for the Tau. The question is, will this work? It is so hard only having 5 models. Going from Tyranids and Gene Stealer cults, where you have 9 models, usually was the typical for me. As many as 12, depending on, are you playing commanders? What are you doing? I'm talking straight 100-point games is what I've been playing. And, you're putting those 5 models down on the table. Yes, they're great. But if you're not bringing intercessors or reavers, you're talking 1 wound. Rail rifles, they get that hit in. That's AP -4. You don't get a save. Then they roll for damage. Okay, D3 damage. What is it? It's just like, oh man, Tau. Oh, Tau are so good. It's actually, this brings me to an interesting point. While I'm still on the road, still driving, I still have you guys. I heard somebody talking the other day, these 2 guys, and they said that they wouldn't play against Tau. How sad is that loss, basically? How many people do you know that get really good at like a video game or something, and then they start to play that on insane mode or hard difficulty, if you're playing a faction that you don't do well against, that's kind of what that's like, in my opinion. So you get really good against a couple factions, you know, you have your lists the way that they are, and then a Tau player comes along, and it's like insane mode, where all of a sudden, like I was saying before, cover is an illusion. You have this model that you want to take out, well, they're shielding themselves from drones, or with drones, and if you're a melee faction, you're chasing after certain things. Well, if they have fly, they're just going to move around and evade you. And you end up in a less advantageous situation because of that. And I think that it speaks to, this is kind of going off on a tangent here, mind wanders as I drive and talk at the same time. This kind of goes into, you know, what does that say about somebody in their life? You know, do we shy against challenges? It reminds me in a way, it's like how, you know, the martial artists, they say the Zen of martial arts. And then there's all these books now, oh, the Zen of golf, the Zen of, you know, all these different hobbies. They find this kind of spiritual path or whatever through that. And it's like, well, okay, what does it say about you in life, you know, where you're a grown man and you're afraid to lose sometimes, or when something is challenging, you won't kind of raise up to that. I don't think that Tau is something that people should avoid playing against. I really don't. I think that they reveal some things to you about yourself when you sit down and play. It can be frustrating. You know, how do you handle that? How are you gracious when the lose does come? Can't win every time, as much as I would love to. I don't win every time. I've lost the past 2 in a row. And does that mean I'm not going to play Tau? No, I'm going home and I'm bugged by it. And I think, okay, well, this is what I got to do next time. You know, I'm going to take this model out of the list. I'm going to put this model in. I'm taking these 2 next time. I need to build this whole new guy and I'm going to beat them where they are weak. And I'm going to come back and I'm probably going to lose again, because not only is the faction great, the player that I'm playing against is really great. So it's not just an easy thing to do. But this is kind of how I see it. And I'm curious to know, what do you think? Are you kind of seeing things the way I am? Do you think I'm way off base? Interested to know your thoughts, kind of your perceptions on this. And I guess we'll be talking again soon. So this is Beeranid40k. Take care. Bye-bye.